Alright, students, fine. Girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, a very special good evening to one and all. Myself Shabnam from the Kodak as usual, and we are formally almost coming to the end of Python by the end of today. Okay, take it. This is day 28 of our Python SQL and Django series, and something day 69 or 68 of our full stack web development series. Okay, let's have a quick recap of what we have learned in the class yesterday. Otherwise, I am audible and the screen is visible to you. We hope so. Correct? We hope so. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Please, good evening. Okay. Fine. I would request you a moment, please, if you could wait. Just a moment. Okay, here we go. Okay, people, here we go. Come on, the class yesterday we were talking in depth about the Flask framework in Python. Good. And now when you're back here today, I expect from you all that you might have given your hands on the Flask framework. Alright, we learned some decorators like route or the route function, how to bind a URL to a function to respond to the URL. Am I right? At the end of the class yesterday, we also dealt with some get or maybe post method to deal with form data in Flask. Correct? Okay, I although informed you that was not only the Flask, but we are well experienced by now what is Flask, and that is enough for us because repeatedly telling you the same thing, we are going to learn Django in depth about the web development. Okay, fine. People, now listen to my strategy of the class today. We might take today longer than usual, but we will complete everything that is pending in Python. Okay, so if you have remembered, 2 days ago this was the list that we prepared, a list of some things which are pending. So first one was Flask, that was a big topic. Okay, today we are starting from serialization, variable scopes, recursion, lambda functions with map, reduce, filter, zip, frozen set, and the list comprehension. Alright, fine. As much as we can do till 6:15. If I find that it is happening too much or going too much for you, then we'll stop and take a call for the next day. Okay, fine. Would be glad if you are also working on your systems. Although I'm not coding anything today, I have kept the programs ready that will save our time for the class just for the day today. Okay, fine. All these are important topics. Make sure that you are understanding to your best. Some of them are in fact interview questions as well. Okay, so here we go. Starting from the first topic, that is serialization and deserialization in Python using pickle. Okay, one can use pickle. There is another module called as Marshall that is also possible using JSON. So different Python libraries that allow serialization and deserialization of the data. Okay, now slowly try to first understand what is serialization. Okay, any object in Python that we create, for example, like this. Okay, say student is a dictionary. Okay, and this contains the first key as ID. Say student ID, let me say 1, 2, 3, 4, or just 3. Then another key value pair it has, that is name. And the names of these 4 students are A, B, C, and D, and D. Okay, then finally let me say fee status. Okay, fee status, which is again a key value pair. Okay, so let me write it in short here, or maybe in the case of 0, 1. Okay, so not paid, paid. Okay, this is an extra data, something like this. So this is an object. Okay, now generally what happens to store, or let me say to transmit this object, Python converts it into a byte stream. Okay, we understand byte stream, something which is not readable to human being. but it's a kind of assembly language, something in terms of zeros and one. And if you want to print it on the screen, it might print, but we won't be in a state to understand that data, right? So student is a Python object here. I make it bold. I'm change the color also. Student is a Python object. This object is converted into the byte stream. That means it can be flattened and stored so that it becomes easy to store it in a memory, so that it becomes easy to store it in some file or in some database by the memory, so that it becomes easy to transmit this data from one IP to another IP in a network. Okay, this object cannot be transmitted the way we create, but it has to be converted in a form that is required for storage and transmission. So this conversion of data, people, this conversion of Python object, come on, from content into the byte stream, this procedure is called as a serialization. Okay, please keep acknowledging to me in the chat section you are understanding or not. I'm talking to you in a very layman language. If you try to read this from many sources online, you might end up being confused. Alright, ये जो Python का object हम आपको बता रहे, student, it's a dictionary object, but we see student like a dictionary on a piece of paper, people. ये हमारे लिए ऐसा दिखता है, curly bracket, quotes में string or key followed by something value which can be another list of items, right? But for the easiness, how would it be ever stored on the memory so that it is flattened, so that it is easily stored, so that it can be easily read and maintained? Correct? Python converts this data, this Python objects, maybe list, maybe dictionary, it could be an integer values also, into a simple byte stream, series of bits and bytes. This procedure is called as nothing but serialization. Okay, now iska ulta means what? Of course, this I created dictionary, but in the memory now it is in the form of a byte stream. When I try to open this dictionary, okay, suppose I try to open this dictionary, if it opens again back in the same byte stream, we won't be able to understand. Thank you, Mark, thank you for that. Okay, fine. The stored data in the form of byte stream, try to understand, a human being or a programmer or an end user won't be able to understand that language. So the opposite of serialization, that is deserialization, need to be done here, which is a form of decoding upon that data. Is that okay? That is a type of or a form of decoding upon the data where the entire byte stream is reconverted back into Python object. Alright, so try to understand there are two people here. Number one, the programmer. Number two, the system or a network. System doesn't understand data as a Python object. It understands data in its own format, that's a byte stream. Developer or the end user don't understand byte stream. We understand data which is either in a simple English or a programming language. Right? So we have this kind of guys in between working for us, this type of our, serving boys in between. One called as a serializer, another called as a deserializer. The one who converts my language for you, that's a serializer. And the translator who reconvert back this data again into my language from yours, that's a deserializer. Is that okay? Fine. Okay, now for those people who are thinking, bhai ye sab humko karna kyun hai? What is the need of all this? Why this is important? Okay. Now, serialization and deserialization generally, not only Python, even Java serializes the data. Even in Java, explicitly we can write the code for the people here who are coming from the background of Java in case. Of course, serialization is a very popular technique and widely used there. But my question to you is, ideally, why would any programmer code for this? Okay, for one and only one reason, so that it allows object to be easily stored and transmitted via different system. Okay, the one that I have highlighted there, that's the reason of serialization, deserialization, just for the easiness to be maintained in the data, so that data can be transmitted easily from one system to another system, especially if you're working with a framework like Flask, where the data is to be highly exchanged between client and a server. The data has to widely cross across different IP addresses. Am I right? Fine. So you actually need to convert this data into byte streams so that it becomes easy for the data to be transmitted or as a source of transmission. Is that okay? Fine. Alright, now hero of this story here is people the package pickle. The package pickle. Okay, fine. So if you can see please. Alright, this is my code for the day. I've just imported pickle. Now suppose if you import pickle and it says sorry not found, error, then I hope you know better what to do in that case. Pip install pickle, correct? Okay. I just got here. Could you please repeat what you said? Okay, my friend, I just repeat in short what we are talking about. The one who is asking in the chat section, my friend, we are talking about serialization and the deserialization of the data. Okay, look, if you could see my diagram here, this is the process. The first half of the picture is called as a serialization, where any Python object, when I say Python object, it could be, let me say, a dictionary, it could be a set, it could be a list of dictionaries, it could be a list of set, it could be a list of list, it could be an object of any class, it could be a list of objects. I hope you got my point, right? So the Python object exists in different forms and format, so that this different object structure architecture becomes easy for transmission, easy for the storage. We convert it into sequence of bytes called as a byte stream. Fine. On the memory, of course, dictionary in the memory is not created, we don't have any curly bracket there on the memory. It's full of zeros and ones, correct or not? Alright, fine. So that sequence of bits and bytes, how the Python object is converted into for the ease of storage and for the ease of transmission, this process is called as a serialization. And the reconversion of data back from byte stream into a Python object, that's called as a deserialization. Right? If still confused, you look the other side of the diagram explains that. Now the serialized data from databases or maybe files which are in the memory or maybe from network or some cloud architecture, all the serialized data which is in a sequence of bytes gets deserialized and reconvert back into Python object. Yes, Naveen, I'll do that. Yesterday's and today's notes. In fact, all these 3 days documents I'll be sharing right after the class today. Is that fine? All of us here fine? Okay, I consider people have understood whatever been explained up until now. Come back. So I imported pickle. In case if pickle is not found, then pip install pickle is a command to install it. Okay, fine. You see, this is my list which contains a dictionary. You look now, this is the format of the data. Content is a Python object here. I created as a list of dictionary. Am I right? Key value pair A1, B2, C3. Right? Okay, let me comment all this line or let me keep it cut. Let me keep this cut. Okay, thank you, fine. Okay, thank you. If I could just run this, okay, this is how it says, before pickling the content. Pickling nothing but serializing. Okay, if you're confused here, so let me say like this. Okay, before serializing, this is how the content look like. That means the actual object. Okay, fine. And if I could come back. Okay, come on. I create another variable here. Come on, I create another variable here called as a pickle content, in which I'm using a function from the module pickle called as dump. Okay, people, dumping the content, that is nothing but converting or serializing an object. Right? So you have to remember this, that is a function dump, dumps people, the function dumps from the module pickle, which is used to convert the Python object into a byte stream. Alright, तो ये पूरा theory जो आपको मैंने सुनाया since last 10-15 minutes, the theory that I'm speaking theoretically, that is achieved by Python using the dumps function. Okay, fine. There are many functions available other than dumps. Because we are using the package pickle, we are making use of dump function. Dump convert this data into a serialized object. And if you ever wonder how this serialized object looks on the computer screen, so I have printed it here. Check it out. So before pickling, the data looks like this. But if you have pickled or if you have serialized, so the serialized content will now look like this. Of course, now this is absolute. What do you mean by B? This is a binary content, people. Are you understanding B? The letter that I have highlighted for my friends, you can understand if you're a little intelligent enough. The way we write R before the file content or F for format. right? The B over here stands for binary. Yeah, this is the binary content, but this is serialized content. Now, of course, if I print the content like this, none of my user would be able to understand. So at the user end, okay, at the end user end, we have to deserialize it back. Okay, so how would I do that? Come on, how would I do that? So I created another variable called as a reconstructed content, and this time not pickle.dump but pickle.load, which is used to deserialize the data. Okay, so let me write it as a comment here. Okay, hashtag function dumps people used to serialize the data. Okay, whereas function loads, both of this function, where would you find these two functions? In the module pickle. I hope you got my point. Is that okay? In the module pickle. Oh, okay, Mark, I think you're asking a question that makes sense. Oh, I saw that is a dump and dumps. Is there any difference? Yeah, there are differences in fact, but now you can say dump is deprecated. Okay, it comes hardly with the differences even if it is working for you. Let me complete this. Okay, one moment, Mark, I'll come back to your point again. Fine. So loads, this is used to deserialize the data. So the pickle content, when I pass as an argument to the function load, I get my original data back. That is a reconstructed data. Okay, so this variable which contains my deserialized data, I'm printing it as it is. So you would see there is no difference in the serialized or let me say before or after serialization, correct? Fine, so the data has been recovered back as it is. Okay, data has been recovered back as it is. Hoping people are understanding that. Okay, friends, fine. Alright, Mark, dump is not working for me. See, it's showing me error here. Okay, your question dump is not working, but yes, dump does work for some older versions of Python libraries. Dump is actually now deprecated in the new versions of Python, especially if you're working with 3.10 or 3.11. Is that fine? Alright, fine. Okay, it comes with some simple features which are different from each other. That's it, just well maintenance, speed, performance, throughput, and so on. Alright, fine. Okay, so this was a short description about serialization and deserialization using pickle and how does it work, right? Those who are interested back at home, instead of pickle you can also try Marshall. Let me write the spelling here. Marshall, like so, marshall.dump and marshall.loads. Okay, you can also try JSON. Okay, JSON. Mark, I would say JSON will work with dump. Okay, JSON should have no object with dumps. No objection with dump. JSON must work in all the versions of Python. It must work. I think so. It won't show you any problem there. Okay, fine. So that's for your experiment, people. Instead of pickle, you can also try Marshall. You can also try JSON. But if you give me an option among all these three, pickle works well. Hoping you are understanding. Correct. So this brings us to the end of one pending topic to be discussed from our Python session. That is serialization. Okay, fine. Let's move on to a little easier thing to be understood, but because it is left over, let us quickly discuss that. I'll be talking about something new here, so maybe you will end up learning something more in variable scopes. Okay, fine. Like in every other programming language, even Python has scope in the variable. Python variables do have their own scope. Alright, fine. The scope, what do you mean by the scope of the variable? The region where variable is declared define its scope. Alright, I repeat one more time. Scope, people, the extent or the limitation. That is what is the English meaning of the word scope. Many of us here who come from the background of coding do understand well this concept's variable scope. In fact, the scope we have also learned during our JavaScript days. Correct? So the region, my friend, wo region, wo jagah, for those who understand Hindi here in case, wo jagah, that region where a variable is defined, define its scope. Where the variable is created, define its scope. Okay, fine. So there are two scopes, very common, that is local and the global. Local scope, if a variable is defined inside a function, so that means the bottom line is pretty clear. It can be used only inside or within that same function. It cannot be used in the body of the entire Python program. Fine, those of my friends who know the scope and the concept of variable scope can please help me with more example. Correct me in case if I go wrong, stay alert. Correct, if a variable is defined inside a function, so it can be used only within that function, right? And it cannot be used outside anywhere within the entire Python program body. So that's called as a local scope, means this guy is local only to the function, right? How do we say, like we are the local people here? That means we live within this region. I mean, for others we might not be local, we may be foreigner or you may be foreigner. No, but we are local here, local to this region, alright, local to this neighborhood. So you see, this is a function called as myfunc. I have a variable x with value 300 initialized, and this function has a duty, it has to print x, right? So now when I call this function, it is printing it. It is printing it. Alright, no, but when I say print x outside the scope of the function, when I use print x outside the function definition, have a look please. It simply gives me an error or something that states by this is not as expected. It's not showing me 300 again, but yet some different sort of output as a data. Okay, only the reason why, because no, 300 is local only to myfunc. This guy, come on, this guy Mr. X cannot be used outside myfunc because he is local only to the function myfunc. Okay, where are we using various defines its scope? Yes, Rakesh, you are right, my friend. In fact, you made my work easier. Okay, chaliye. Now, you see, for those who also already know about this, you look, how would this go? Come on, if I do not, okay, I've already executed that. Okay, one moment, please. Fine. Now, see, tell me what could be the output of this function? Come on, people who are attending, can you guess? This is a variable with the concept of function inside function. So I already have a function called as myfunc. Myfunc has a local variable declared with value 300 initialized. Inside myfunc, I have another function called as myInnerfunc. And this guy, myInnerfunc, is trying to access the variable x. Now I don't know whether you would have any output or not. Come on, right? And who is calling myInner function? The outer function is calling this function. Right? The outer function defines the inner function. Come on, the outer function defines the inner function, and after defining the inner function, it is also calling that function. Right? So let me call this outer function. Of course, it will show 300. It will show 300 because 300, you see people, you see, this is going to remain within this entire scope, correct? You look the highlighted part. X can be accessed within this entire scope. So even if there is one more function inside my inner function, something like this, say def my inner function, so there is no problem using x here, am I right? Right? And again, if it says print x, of course there is no problem using x here, right? Because x is valid. One moment, okay, right? Because x ka scope is alive through this entire body of myfunc. Once you cross this border, people, of course, then x is going to be limited, am I right? Hoping people understand. So let me get rid of this, I don't want. So this was a scope of the variable with the help of the demonstration of function inside function. Right? If this was a local scope, then let us talk about the global scope. Of course, it's pretty clear, any variable which is declared outside the functions, that is inside the main Python program body, that's a global variable. Yes, of course, global variable comes with its own challenges. The very first question that should come into your mind now, what if there is a global variable and a local variable by the same name? Would Python allow both execution, both of them? Or would Python end up in producing error? How would it work? Okay, so first of all, let's go through the theoretical definition. So if a variable is created in the main body of the code, that's a global variable. and that is available within any scope. Like any local function can also access the variable which is global, but vice versa is not true. Am I right? Vice versa is not true. Yeah, Rakesh, correct. Makes a hierarchy within the flow of the inner variable. That's what you're talking. Correct? Fine. Let's have a look at it. Come on. This time x is 300, but this is not defined within any function body. Inside any function body, x is not defined. Am I right? Fine. I have another function called as myfunc, wherein x is defined as 200. Now there is a big problem. So this is also x and this is also x. So if my function tries to print x, which x would be printed? Understood? So if there is a local variable and a global variable by the same name, priority within the function will always be given to the local variable. Is my statement clear to you? Please, one more time. If there is a local variable and a global variable by the same name, then within the function scope, the priority will be given to local variable. So if a function says print x, it's obviously going to print its own local x. You see, so I'm calling my func here to print x. Check what happens. And now when I say print x, now because x is a known guy with the value 300, it gets printed. Yes, you're right. 300 and 200. Correct. Everyone who are answering in the chat section, that's correct. Is that okay? Fine. Now sometimes what happens, I don't want to use x as a local. How can I make this understand to Python? What Python is doing here, Python is creating a variable x as local inside. I want to convey this message to Python by खुद से अंदर नया variable x नहीं बनाना. Don't create this guy again. I want to use the global x. Am I right? Are you understanding what is my problem here? I want to convey this message to Python. अरे भाई, don't create another x. I want to use the global x. So for that we have a keyword called as global. Alright, we have a keyword called as global. Let me take a break here for a few moments of time and let me see if you can understand this code on your own. Okay, fine. I think I spoke something and I have written program for something, but it's okay. Anyway, global even works this way. Okay, if time permit, I'll code one more program telling you what did I spoke or what did I speak. But even global works this way. For example, if any function wants its local variable to be used outside the scope, I repeat the point again. If you want any local variable that can also be used outside the scope as global, then we can always make use of this keyword global before declaring the variable. Okay, hold on, go through this code. Look what it does. Correct. So we have a function called as a myfunc. Unlike last time, by just writing x equals 300, I have written global x first. You could have written here also this thing. ये काम आप इधर भी कर सकते थे तो भी चलता था. This way or this way, both fine. And then finally I say x is equals to 300 or 200. And I call this function. I call this function. Right, now when I say print x, it showed me some weird output last time like zip object and all. But now when I print it, it shows me an output, 300. Am I right? So print x is not, I'm so sorry for that, I printed something. Okay, right? So print x is not showing me any weird output sort of. It's printing, correct? If you want to print this also. Okay, none, because this function is not returning anything or not printing anything. Am I right? I'm just calling the function, but mind you, the function is not doing any specific thing. It is just making a local variable global inside. Correct? So if you could see the explanation part, look what I have mentioned here. Sometimes you need to create a global variable, but you're stuck in the local scope. Understood? Maybe I want to calculate the total amount, but the principal rate of interest. Okay, maybe the rate of interest, I'm stuck in this function to calculate the amount or the compounded interest. But I actually want this rate of interest also to be used somewhere outside this function for other calculations. Yeah, so let me use the keyword global and forcefully make this local variable global outside. Okay, I would be glad if somebody could acknowledge to me in the chat section this point clear or not. Okay, we would forcefully make this local variable global outside. Everybody here? Is that clear? If not, then I'll give you other examples and code it. Alright, fine. Okay. Okay, shall be waiting for your response in the chat section. Also, shall be sending this file you soon after the lecture ends today. If you don't get time to practice type and all, at least run this code one by one in the Jupyter notebook or copy paste into Visual Studio Code and run them. Okay, fine, clear ma'am. Thank you so much for that. Fine. Alright, now let's go to another remaining topic, that is people frozen set in Python. Okay, now believe me, this feature seems to be very minor and negligible, but sometimes it comes to be so handy, so useful. Okay, now what actually frozen set does, you go by the name of that function. आप उसके नाम पर जाइए. Frozen means what? Something which has been freeze or frozen. Understood? So frozen over here means you freeze the data. Are you understanding? This method or this function in Python freezes some iterable, it freezes some data. Like, I know list. Okay, check, this is my list. Okay, here, let me go here. Say A is a list of colors. Okay, so red, green, blue. Okay, red, green, blue. Run this, print this, print this. So I want to print it as A. Now I realize, no, I want one more color to be added here. That is, let me say white. Okay, so what do? A dot add or insert or append, whatever could be done, right? Add, insert, append. There were many methods which works for adding elements in the list. Extend works, append works, insert works. So let me add white, but I ended up adding white 2 times. Okay, one at a time. This is going to accept only one object. If you want to add 2 items together, you have to use the function extend, not append. I hope you have remembered that. Otherwise go back to our sessions of list and all of these are available in our YouTube full stack playlist. एक से ज़्यादा आइटम ऐड करना है तो भाई अपेंड नहीं, एक्सटेंड यूज़ करना पड़ेगा, right? Fine. Okay, so a dot append, that's white, and I once again write a dot append, that's white. Okay, and let me say print a. Okay, so fine, the data got added here. First of all, I never wanted this list to be changed by anyone. Okay, number 1. Number 2, maybe I don't wanted this repeating items in the list to come. Repeating item like white, how come it is 2 times? Like red color, how come it is 3 times? So I never wanted this redundant data as well. And suppose there are 2 lists here, list of colors and the list of some other thing. I want to find the unions of 2 lists, intersection of the 2 lists. But remember, union, intersection, all these works only for set, not for list, correct? There is a dictionary, union of the 2 dictionary, or let me say intersection of the 2 dictionary. All this happens only with set, not with the dictionaries. I don't want this dictionary or a list or a tuple. Tuple to as well doesn't get changed, it is already immutable. But at least this list or dictionary or set, I don't want them to be changed by anybody by adding, removing, deleting something some kind of manipulation. So in such cases, the programmer better prefer to freeze it. When it's freezing, it's like lock. इसको lock कर दीजिए भाई, ये अभी आगे change नहीं होना चाहिए. Freeze it, stop that. Okay, so that's a function comes into picture. That's a frozen set. Two things happens here. Whatever is the data, it first of all freezes it. Now it behaves like a tuple, people. Like tuple never used to allow any changes. And number two, the data type will no longer be the original data type. It will be now set. Okay, any frozen object using frozen set is called as a set or a frozen set. Right? So for those who are not understanding, have a look at my code here. Right? So my list is a list of fruits here. Let me convert it into a list. This is a list of fruit. I'm printing my list. Let me get rid of all these. Okay, I'm printing all these. Let me do hashtag. So I just created one list and I'm printing it. Okay, it printed apple, banana, cherry and apple. Now let me freeze my list and store it in a variable X. You can again store it in the same variable, but then mind you, you will lose the original data, people. Okay, if we're storing back into my list, you're going to lose the original list. That's the reason, because I want it later back. I'm storing it in another variable, that is X in my case. Okay, and I try to print X. See what happens? Fine. So print my list. This was the original list. Print X. Now X is a set. Have a look, it's in curly bracket. X is a set. And you see one more thing, you look how beautiful. Apple appeared happened two times in the list. But in a set, apple is only one time, because this is the nature of the set. Set allows only unique data item. Right? You can even print the type of this written data. What is the type of X? Correct. It's not a list again. This is a frozen set. Is that okay? It's a frozen set. So now if I try to add something into it, say X dot add some another fruit, say mango. Mango is already there. No, it's not. Mango. No, sorry. It gives me an error here. Sorry, frozen set has no object. Okay, frozen set. Oh, 1 minute. There's some problem in our lightning effect. 1 minute. Okay, so frozen set has no attribute called as add. The reason why, because it is a frozen data now. It's freeze or frozen. It cannot be edited. Okay, someone in the chat section, if you could please let us know your progress, your understanding or not something, we would be grateful for that. No, you can't defreeze it back. Understood? You say if I wanted to defreeze, no, you cannot defreeze it back. It cannot be defrozen. It's a permanent change. Are you getting this point? It cannot be defrozen. That's the reason I told you, store it in a different variable. Otherwise you won't be able to recover the same data back. Good. Thank you, Rakesh. Alright, I hope this point is clear. Please make use of a different variable or a data object, since you won't be able to recover the same data back then. That's a frozen set. Alright, fine. Okay, you can create one more list, like one list of fruits, another list of fruit. If you want to find what are the common fruits in the two lists, now you can perform every set operation like union, intersection, differences between the two lists, which can otherwise not be done by using simple list functions, correct? Union of the list, intersection of the list, or maybe differences between the list and all. These functions exist with set. They don't come for the list. Right? So one way to deal with them is convert them into a frozen set. You won't be able to make any changes, do your operation and go back to your list. No, Navin, no, you can't do that. Understood? Post freezing, after freezing it, you cannot change that apple to pineapple. Understood? You can't change. When I say immutable, means neither can you add nor can you edit, nor can you delete. Okay, hopefully Navin's question everyone understood there. Can I change that apple to pineapple? Answer is no. The meaning of the word immutable, immute people, immutable. No editing, no additions, no deletions. Is that fine? Correct, fine. So you have to take care of the situations and scenarios where a programmer might end up with all these functionalities. Okay, it is pretty obvious this won't come into use in our normal daily lives of coding. कोई ordinary coding में ये सब आपको use नहीं करना पड़ेगा. There would be certain situations where you have to analyze the data or maybe make sure the data is not been edited by anybody, maybe for security purpose or maybe for your own comparison or manipulation purpose. Fine, so there exists some kind of this type of solution. We need to be aware of it. Okay, हाँ भाई Python में ऐसा कोई solution होता है. You need to be aware of that particular thing. Is that fine? All of us here? Fine. Okay, next let's go first to list comprehension, people. Okay, but this actually you can do a lot of things in list comprehension. I have just summarized it up to its meaning. Okay, fine. List comprehension, try to understand. Let me come back into my Jupyter notebook. Okay, list comprehension, people, have a look please. Consist of what it is exactly, try to understand. Consist of brackets. Look, this bracket I am talking about. Okay, check it out, the highlighted part of the code. Consist of bracket, and this bracket contains expression. So x into 2 is my expression, and this expression is executed for each element. Come on, each element in your iterator, or let me say each element in the sequence, for over the list or for an entire list. We talked over it na ma'am, no issue, revision ho jayega. Okay, I don't remember Rakesh, is that, have you talked about list comprehension? Okay, good if we have talked about. Yeah, he's right. Rakesh is right. I'm able to recollect that list comprehension. Take anyways, it will take hardly 2 minutes of time. Okay, at least we will be contented in mind that we have done it. Okay, let's go ahead please. Hardly 2-3 lines ka code I have written here. Not it's. In fact, we have done, I could recollect now, we have done list comprehension in much depth as well, by writing conditions and all also. Good. Alright, so this is a kind of, running a loop over list with some expression in a shorthand format. Good. Right, in a shorthand format, as if you're writing some condition for loop to run, so that the code becomes a little shorter, it looks concise and easy to read. That's the only aim of list comprehension, people. Okay, saves time, saves a lot of let me say throughput and all. Okay, looks a little neat in reading as well. All that you have to do is you have to put this condition and the loop inside the square bracket, and it runs. Right? For example, number is a list here. It contains 3 numbers, 12, 13, 14. I want to multiply each of these numbers by 2. Right? If there was no list comprehension, how would this code look like? For I in numbers, okay, for I in numbers, let me say print I into 2. So the first I in the list number is 12. 12 into 2, 24 would be printed. Am I right? The loop increases to the next index. Am I right? The loop goes to the next index and it exists. The value at the next index after 12 is 13. So 13 into 2, that is 26. Then 14 into 2, that is 28. I hope you got my point. Fine. So these 2 lines of code would how look in a shorthand format. This is how the list comprehension looks like. But you look, the name itself is a list comprehension. This cannot be done for any individual number. Not any, the operation will be performed only upon some sequence structure, people, like a set or a dictionary or a tuple, or maybe a, who left now, set, dictionary, tuple, list, set, dictionary, tuple, list comprehension इन पर चलता है especially, or most likely that is a list. Okay, most likely it's a list. I hope you got my point here. Is that okay? Fine. Please try more such code that we have done, and in fact beyond what we have learned. Right? So basically it's like a, yeah, it always returns a list. Correct, you are correct. Remember that it always returns a list part. That's the reason it's a list comprehension. Okay, so let me get rid of this part and just run this code in short. Here it is. Alright, fine. Now let's go back to our lambda functions. Lambda functions, if you have remembered, people, lambda function, they were the anonymous functions and a little shorthand way of creating or writing a function, correct? Fine. So what is the expression of lambda? Let me say lambda x, say x into x, and I store this in result. Come on, what it does? Lambda function, this function has no name. It just accepts an argument. I'm revising lambda ka concept, people, before understanding map, filter, zip. So anonymous function lambda, the one who has no name. But in the syntax of lambda function, we do mention the argument if the function accepts, and it always accepts. After colon followed by expression, what you want to return from this function. Yes, of course, lambda function always returns something. Right? So this lambda unknown function, the nameless guy, जिसका कोई नाम ही नहीं है, नाम पता कुछ है ही नहीं, this nameless fellow, my friend, this nameless guy, he's just accepting an argument and returning the square of that argument. Are you understanding? Returning the square of that argument. This return data I'm accepting in a variable result. But as I told you multiple times, this guy doesn't have any name. So if I want to call this function, how do I call it? किस नाम से बुलाए भाई, इसका तो नाम ही नहीं है, किस नाम से बुलाए इसे? So better call it by the name result, in which it is storing the return data. Alright, so if I write like this, print call result with the number 6. So it returns 36. Is that okay? It returns 36. So this was a small revision of lambda. Yes, it can do so many things, like it can accept two variables also, x comma y. Say return x if x is greater than y, otherwise return y. Am I right? Fine. So lambda even works with multiple variables. Lambda also works with some if-else condition, but make sure it should be just one line of if-else condition. You can't write nested if and if inside if here. पूरा else if वाला ladder नहीं बना सकते आप यहाँ पे. So if an expression is smaller, that's best suited or well fitted for your anonymous functions. Yes, by the name of the variable in which it is stored. You're right, my friend, correct. Right, now try to understand what is map here. Map function, and how does it works for lambda or with lambda. The 4 functions we are going to work with one by one. Map, at least 3 of them. Map, filter and reduce. Okay, map, filter and reduce. People, map, English meaning of the word map here. I say, for example, map this name to contact number. Alright, for example, in my phone book, in my mobile phone, all the names that I've saved, I've saved with some contact number. So the names have been mapped to contact number. Linked, correct? Linking. Am I right? Another way of speaking, a little technical example. The URLs are mapped to their respective IP address. Like google.com, it's mapped to its IP. Facebook.com or co.in mapped to its IP. Instagram mapped to its IP. So that's a mapping. Right? The same logic here works for map also. This function returns an object of results after applying. Focus the definition from here. After applying, it returns something after applying some given function to each item of the iterable. Iterable here we are speaking to list, tuple, dictionary, set, sometimes strings as well. Are you understanding? Fine. So there will be one function and there will be one iterable. This function one by one will be applied on each member of the iterable. Are you understanding? Before I could show you the code, people, try to break the meaning of this theoretical point. एक function होगा, एक iterable होगा. जैसे function is add, this function add 1 to each number. Okay, so the function is add and the iterable is list. Right? So what happens, one by one automatically it calls the member out from the list. Number 1 come out, I will add 1 to you. Second member come out, I will add 1 to you. तीसरा आदमी बाहर आओ, I will add 1 to you. चौथा आदमी बाहर आइए from the list, that is the member of the list come out. So the fourth guy comes out, function is applicable to it. Fifth guy comes out, the function is applicable on it. This way the last guy from the list or set or tuple or dictionary, whoever is the iterable, comes out and the function is applicable to it. Right? So this is called as mapping. Okay, fine. ठीक है. I have used map here 2 times, one without lambda, one with lambda. So you see this is a function called as addition. It just receives a single number or a single variable and it adds a variable to the same variable. For example, if the number is 5, so 5 plus 5. If the number is 10, so it is 10 plus 10. So it's not a square, add the same number to itself. Is that okay? Fine. So we are doubling the number. Moral of the story. If somebody asks me, क्या करता है भाई? Every number is received. A number is received in an argument, and the number is simply doubled. Right? Fine. So this is a tuple. If you could see 1, 2, 3, 4. So my iterable is a tuple here. And look, this is the map function. Check the syntax. There should be one function. There should be one iterable. एक function है, एक iterable है. बस एक iterable. एक से ज़्यादा नहीं चलेगा. Only one iterable at a time. Okay, so addition, this function should be applied to each guy inside the numbers. Right? It returns back a map object, which is again an iterator. Check the data type of it. Alright, and then I simply print it. Okay, I simply print it. If you print like this, say print result, you get some weird output. Check like this, because whatever the map function has written, it's a map object, it's not a readable object. It's a map data, people. It's a mapped object, it's not a readable object. So that it becomes readable, you have to convert it into some kind of list or set or tuple at least, and then print it, and you get an output. Is that okay? So 1 is double to 2, 2 is double to 4, 3 is double to 6, and 4 is double to 8. Is that okay? All of us here? Fine. Acha. I think I was talking here and then suddenly I came here. Okay, I'm talking about this function. Right? So addition and the number and the list, the result is converted into the list data type and printed. Okay, this is the same program with a different version. Like instead of writing the function addition, you could see I have even simplified the work by understand on your own, quick. Look, if you can understand this part on your own, acknowledge to me in the chat section. In the second edition of this program, I have not defined an explicit function addition. Instead, because the function was very simple, I expressed it in lambda notation. So this is called as lambda with map function. Okay, I would be glad if somebody could acknowledge to me in the chat section here, please. Is that correct? Yeah. Am I right? Call this function for each member of your iterable. Is that okay? So this is also going to give me the same output. Right? So this was about the map function, people. Try to use map with different purposes. Okay, say create a list. You want to find the, say you want to divide every number by 2 in the list. Understood? You want to what operation you want to do, but mind you, map is applicable to each and every element. Okay, I want to square the members, I want to cube the member, I want to do any other operation with the member, like finding the square root of this, logarithmic values of it, do that way. Okay, fine. After map, lambda also works with some special function called as reduce. Okay, just a moment please. We know some of them join in the end just for attendance, so let me send the link first and then continue. Take care. Anyways, we continue here for another 5 minutes if you don't mind. Just if you don't mind, people, another 5 minutes. Reduce function in Python. Go by the name or go by the English meaning of the word reduce. Reduction. You just have to give the full list. Syntax is going to remain the same. Syntax is same, people. Function and like this way. Syntax, reduce some function. This function could be our simple function or a lambda function, right, followed by an iterable. I hope you got my point. That's one thing. Number two, how this function works, this is not going to map. This is going to reduce the entire iterable into a single value. Okay, I repeat one more time. Reduce, कम कर देना, छोटा कर देना, थोड़ा कर देना, थोड़ा, कम, reduce, that is the meaning of the word reduce, correct? कम कर देना, थोड़ा कर देना. So this function is actually going to return you back the reduced value from the function, reduced value. For example, this is a list and I want to find the sum of the list. Are you understanding? So 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 6 plus 2, whatever is the total of this list, I'm going to find that. Right? So this time the output which is going to come is just a single number which is a sum of this list, correct? Another example, I want to find the greatest number from this list, like 6. So the output of this is going to be a single number, that is 6. Or maybe the least number from this list, that is 1. That's a reduction, people. Am I right? Or maybe the sum of the squares of all the members in the list. But remember one thing, this function reduce, to be used, you have to first import the module functools or the function tools because this function is present in this library, function tools. Okay, unlike map, you can't use it anywhere. It's present in the function tools. Fine. So how do we do that? Come on, this is my list. 1, 3, 5, 6, 2. I'm just computing the list of each of these elements. Okay, list end L is generally given in print to display the output on the next line. I hope you got my point. Are you understanding? Fine. Or maybe on the same line, not next line, to continue the next output on the same line. Right? Anyways, excluding, apart from that thing here. Yes, Navin, yes. I told you, all the notes I shall be sending here. Okay. ठीक है, चलिए. So lambda, reduce, the function is here, a plus b and list. Now this is interesting, you have to understand how it works. See what is the working here. Let me explain you the working. How does it work? Right, so the first a and b is 1 and 3. Okay, so 1 becomes a, 3 becomes b. This is how it iterates over each element in the list. Right, so what is the return value? A plus b, that is 3. Correct? Now, sorry, 4. Now what happens in the next iteration? A becomes the sum of the previous operation, that is 4. And b becomes the next number, that is 5. B becomes the next number, that is 5. So b is 5 now. And 4 plus 5, that is 9. Correct? So this continues until the end of the list is been reached. Okay, so 5 plus 4, 9 will be assigned as new value of a. And b will be taken as the next element after 5, that is 6. So b is equal to 6. Okay, what to return? A and b's are 9 and 6. What to return? 9 plus 6, that is 15. So the new a now becomes 15 and b becomes 2, the next value after iteration. So the b is 2 and a plus b, that is 15 plus 2, 17. 17 will be returned. So the new a will be 17, but there is no next b to iterate upon. And here we come to the end of the function. Right, so this entire list is now reduced to a single value, which is the sum of the list, that is nothing but 17. Okay, fine. Let me just run the program up until here. Okay, so the element is 17. Okay, similarly, I am also using reduce function here to compute the maximum of the element. So every time it is taking two elements, or in the first iteration it takes the 2 element, returns a if a is greater, else it returns b. Right, so this time for reduce, this is the lambda function, and list is an iterable. Okay, list is an iterable. Hoping people are understanding here. Is that okay? Fine, please try everything at your end as well. Shall be sharing you the file as it is. All of us here. The last thing for the class today, let's have a look please. The last thing, that is a filter function. Filter, the meaning of the filter itself, explain its meaning. That is to search something, correct? Map never search. Map maps each value in the iterable with some other value, correct? That's mapping. Reduce, it simply reduces to a single number, but filter is to search something. For example, if I want to search how many even numbers exist in the list, who is a prime number in the list, who is a person with age greater than 75, who is a person with salary more than 28,000, how many people pay taxes more than 15,000, something like that. Right, so for that purpose we make use of the function filter. Again, filter goes well with lambda because the syntax is same. Okay, fine. So this method filters a given sequence with the help of the function, who will test each element in the sequence. Okay, so have a look please, have a look. So this is my sequence. It's a list 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 11 or 13. I think this is a Fibonacci number if I'm not wrong. No, it's not Fibonacci. For Fibonacci there should be 1 here, correct? If I add 1, maybe this becomes Fibonacci. Yes, I hope you understood what I'm trying to speak. Correct? Fine, so this is a sequence of the number. Now what am I doing? I'm using filter here. One by one taking element out of sequence or taking element out of the list. Checking if this number is divisible by 2. If it is not divisible, only then return it. It will be a lambda filter object, people. This will be a filter object, try to understand. And then simply printing it. So do you understand the difference between reduce and the filter? Reduce is going to return only one value back, which will be the reduced value from the list. But filter might find multiple pattern out of such expression, correct? Like there are so many elements here which is not divisible by 2. So that's not a reduction upon the data. That's a filtration upon the data, correct? Right, so those numbers who are odd numbers will be written as one list of numbers, and those who are even will be returned as another list of numbers. Hoping you are understanding. Correct, so filter I'm using 2 times. Again, both with the lambda function, and here we go. Okay, let's finish it off. We are left with just one more lambda utility called as a zip function. People, zip, it simply, combines 2 or more than 2 objects. Like if you want to combine the 2 lists, if I want to combine the 2 tuples. Okay, say these are the 2 tuples here, John, Jack, Wilson, and B is holding values Jenny, Steve and Smith. So these are the 2 tuples here. When I say zip A comma B and I print X, okay, because X is a zipped object, you have to convert it into tuple or some other iterable to be able to be printed. Okay, are you understanding how the zip data looks like? So John gets zipped with Jenny. It maps with data with a similar index. Hoping you are understanding. Map the data with a similar index. So 0, 0. The 2 same indices got mapped. 1, 1, 2 same indices got mapped. Wilson Smith, the two indices got mapped or zipped. And suppose if it contains unequal number of elements like this, say here I have something Raj. No, it will remain unzipped because there is no index number 3. Indexing starts from 0. So there is no index number 3 in B to be mapped with, or to be able to map with Raj. Hoping you are understanding. Is that okay, everyone? ठीक है people. Fine. Now from all these which we were expected to do today, आज ये सब जो हम expected थे, इसमें से what we could not do is only recursion. Okay, so fine, I'll keep this aside and we will do it. We will mark it in a list of pending topic, only one thing, that is recursion, and maybe some encapsulation and abstraction. Yeah, I remembered that. Okay, we will be marking it as a list of pending topics and complete it as soon as possible. Okay, fine. We intended this one to be the last session of Python today and continue with the other streams and technologies of our full stack. But recursion and some concepts of object-oriented programming will, I think, make us to take another at least 45 or half an hour class, one more. Is that okay? So probably we'll take that on Monday. Okay, tomorrow we have no lecture. People, tomorrow there is no class. Right? For the people who are here, I'm not going to send any message on the group now. Tomorrow there is no class. Next we are meeting directly on Monday. Okay, maybe taking one more class on Python and we will bring it to the end. That's a final class. Okay, so after Monday we will be having no Python lectures coming up. Recursion is good topic. No, ma'am. Yes, Rakesh, we are doing it on Monday. That's what I told you. Recursion will take time. I will make you to do some 2 to 3 good programs in recursion. Recursion will do it on Monday. Is that okay? Fine. I know recursion we have not done even in JavaScript as well, considering it not so important, or even if we have done not as significantly as in Python. Right? So recursion we will be dealing with on Monday, along with some concepts of abstraction, encapsulation from object-oriented programming, thereby bringing Python to the end. After Python for 10 days, or at least for the 10 lectures, then we commence with MySQL, that is SQL. Okay, Django we will come after MySQL. Hoping you're understanding. Monday is the last class of Python. Navin, Monday is the last class of Python. After Monday, taking 1 or 2 days of break, maybe, if required. Okay, taking a 1 day of break, if required, then we will start with SQL. Is that okay? Once SQL starts, we will have connected 10 lectures of SQL. Then we will start with Django. Okay, as I told you yesterday, we are back in the flow. And most probably we will try to bring our classes back 5 days a week. Okay, if possible. Again, one more time. Alright, fine. Let's have a quick recap of what we have learned today. We started from serialization of the data. People, we started from serialization. We made use of the pickle package to do that. Okay, converting data, Python objects into byte stream, that's serialization. Reconverting data in the form of byte stream, or from the format of byte stream back into the Python object, that's a deserialization. Yes, I'm sending you, my friend. As soon as the class ends today, I'm sending you. Okay, yesterday's also and today's also. We are little reluctant to share the data on WhatsApp group. We might think that this would disturb some other people. That's the reason we are ideally hanging back. Okay, I'll soon try to find a way out. Maybe I'll try to create some repository here on the YouTube channel so that we can upload the files here, or the Google Drive link, and you can download them. I understand the WhatsApp groups are most comfortable, or maybe we'll create a community in a group so that only people who are interested in the file sharing and the news sharing will join us. Okay, fine. Okay. Then we went to local and the global variable scopes. Is that okay? Recursion we could not do, unfortunately, today. Lambda functions we started with, map, reduce, filter and zip. All people, this required a tough practice back at home. Only watching the channel or the YouTube videos won't work. You understood? Even me till date, having 20 years experience of programming, unless and until I don't put it into hands-on coding, that confidence, that experience never comes. I hope you got my point. You are listening this thing, something from a person who is experienced in coding from 10-20 years. ओके सो खाली वीडियो देखते रहना, बोलना कि नहीं भाई मुझे आ गया, सो दैट इज एब्सोल्युटली अनफेयर. यू हैव टू पुट इट इनटू कोडिंग, यू हैव टू मेक योर हैंड्स डर्टी ऑन दैट. वो एरर आना चाहिए, डिबगिंग इशू सामने आना चाहिए तो कोडिंग होता है. ठीक है, फाइन. देन वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट द फ्रोजन सेट. Any iterable which you want to freeze it so that it becomes immutable, and so that the other set operation become applicable upon them, like union, difference, symmetric difference, intersection. Although I showed you how to freeze a particular set, after that how to find the union, you try, please, you do it. Okay, try to do it. Also we learned list comprehension, though we had already done it in some time ago. Okay, list is just a shorthand way of writing some function or some loops upon the iterables. Is that okay? Each of them were equally important topic. You have to be well aware of them. Okay, the class 2 days ago we have in fact put it into revision, everything whatever we have done up until now. If you have missed the class, please watch our class which happened on Tuesday. You will get a clear idea of it. Although I will share the notepad file also, the one which I prepared that day, list of pending files. This one, people, this one. Okay, in fact those which I have, let me do it right now, so that only 2 days would be remaining. Okay, this is yesterday's file which I have sent you. Okay, this is day before yesterday's file that I sent you, and today's file, give me time, I'll do it right after the class ends today. Okay guys, fine. So this was a nice time spending with you all, and I wish you all goodbye and happy weekend coming from tomorrow or day after tomorrow. See you back again on Monday. Goodbye, take care.